Paleontology bingo, but we're going to be marking them for whatchamacallit, gosh, I already had a stroke. Are you serious? Paleontology bingo, but we're going to be marking them live as we go. Anyways, enjoy. And also prepare for a long ride because this is a 30-minute video. I knew that, I tried to get around this because, this video is long. But now I'm gonna have to face it. I've done enough videos before this. This was next in my suggestions in Discord, by the way.
Ladies and gentle soars, welcome to Assessing Survival, the series where we take creatures from both our world and fiction, placing them in different periods throughout history, as well as some fantastical settings from outside reality. In today's episode, we will be taking raptors, more accurately dromaeosaurs.
So far, this design over here is fairly accurate.
And placing them in the Ice Age, the Pleistocene epoch over 2 million years ago.
Okay. Could raptors survive that? These raptors are just pulled out of their environment.
We'll explore.
That's the problem here. Not many raptors are going to survive like that.
How some of the most advanced predators of the Mesozoic shape up against some of the most fearsome and impressive animals that the new dynasty of mammals has to offer. I'll be using 4 different categories to assess their ability to survive. These scores will then be added up for a final assessment score. 1 to 3 being that they are unlikely to or simply cannot survive, 4 to 6 being they can survive but with great to moderate difficulty, and more than 7 being they will survive with little to no difficulty. Those categories are environment suitability, strengths and weaknesses, prey items, and competition.
Now, could raptor survive the Ice Age? Alright. So, what raptors are we going to pull out, for example? Are we going to pull out something as small as a Pyroraptor? Or are we going to pull out something as gigantic as a Dakota Raptor or Utah Raptor? We just never know, for sure. So, in this particular scenario, I judge it with 3 different categories. The first one being small, using Pyroraptor and Velociraptor. The second one being the Deinonychus, which is medium-sized. And the third one is the big ones, like Utah Raptor and Dakota Raptor. These will probably have... Alright. Let's see.
In the latter half of the video, we will speculate on how our raptors may evolve to better fit their new environment. Before we get into those categories, though, I'd like to take just a minute to explain some...
Oh no, Logan Paul! Okay. Whatever. Just... Logan Paul everything out of the way, please. Like I said earlier, these raptors are not suitable to their environment. In the Ice Age, they're literally going to freaking die. They're literally going to freeze to death. Did you cap the photo of the paleontology bingo chart? We're going to be marking, where is the... Uses a ridiculous... No, makes a ridiculous statement. Example, T-Rex is a scavenger. Raptors could survive the Ice Age. No, can't.
Things. The title of this video is a little vague, and other than it being the title most likely to be clicked on and shown to people browsing on YouTube, I left it this way so that I could speak on which dromaeosaur I'd like to use, and it came down to 3 choices for me.
Whether you have a thesis, capstone, a research paper to write this year, Grammarly is a must-have for all students. You can get
Velociraptor, Deinonychus, and Utah Raptor. These 3 raptors cover the vast range of sizes seen in dromaeosaurs throughout the Cretaceous.
These are accurate designs, actually, so I can definitely give them props for this.
My first choice was, of course, Utah Raptor, the largest of the family. These guys would clearly do much better than the others given their size. They were larger than the vast majority of their would-be mammalian competition. They could reach heights of 2 meters or 6.5 feet, lengths of up to 6 meters or 20 feet.
Sorry about the background music there. Anyways, continue. Height of 2 meters, length of 6 meters.
And weigh well over 1,000 pounds or around 500 kilograms.
Well, 1 kilogram equates to around 2.2 pounds. Sorry for the brain fart. 1 kilogram equates to around 2.2 pounds. So you can just multiply that by 2.2 and ironically it would just be 1,100 pounds or 450 kilograms if it were to, we were to keep up with the, the 1,000 pounds.
They're also more used to the dry and open environments that dominate the Pleistocene.
What?
Environments that dominate the Pleistocene.
How about the temperature? Okay, dinosaurs are warm-blooded, but it doesn't mean that they could survive like polar bears do.
We already know these guys would do pretty well, at least in terms of their matchups against mammals of the era. So for the sake of making things interesting, I decided to not go with Utahraptor. Then I looked at Velociraptor, definitely the most famous of the dromaeosaurs.
Oh no, not Jurassic Park Raptor. Gosh, stop with the inconsistencies, dude. Either use accurate Velociraptor all the time, or use JP Velociraptor all the time.
But also one of the smallest. Velociraptor
Can't have both.
was at most half a meter tall, just over 6 feet or under 2 meters long, and weighed no more than 20 kilograms or 45 pounds. They also lived in Cretaceous Mongolia, an area that would be extraordinarily hot and arid compared to the Pleistocene. So for those reasons, I decided not to go with Velociraptor either. And finally, I came to Deinonychus, who lies between the other two in terms of size. The highest, emphasis on highest, of estimates for Deinonychus put them at a height of 3 feet or under 1 meter, a length of 3.4 meters or 11 feet long, and almost 90 kilograms or 200 pounds. This puts them at a very similar size to many of the predators in the Pleistocene, such as wolves and some big cats. Also, out of all the dinosaurs in the Dromaeosaur family, Deinonychus has the most compelling evidence for pack hunting behavior, which is something I'm going to explain further in the video, so...
Compelling evidence for pack hunting behavior. Let me see. So far, we can't even have a conclusion here. So, that's just purely speculatory at this point. Can't say this guy's wrong, but I can't say this guy's right either. From what I've heard of, there are other dromaeosaurs that could theoretically survive the Ice Age, for example, the Imperabator, but they just decided to use Deinonychus, despite Imperabator being of similar size.
Don't go smacking that keyboard just yet. I decided to go with Deinonychus because I think it'll give us the most interesting survival assessment, as well as the most interesting spec evo later on. Again, we will be using their most robust estimates for their size and weight. All three of these raptors lived in ecosystems that were much, much hotter than the Pleistocene, which brings me to my next point. The title also says we'll be placing them in the Ice Age, and while the Pleistocene is in fact the Ice Age, people often think of this Ice Age as the entire Earth being covered in snow and ice for millions of years. This is simply not true. On average, during the last glacial maximum, ice sheets and glaciated areas extended up to approximately 2,000 miles or 3,200 kilometers from polar regions towards the equator. Equatorial regions, though cooler than today, did not experience the harsh conditions of the Ice Age.
So, basically, you want to pluck in the Deinonychus in. Huh.
I will not be placing them directly on these ice sheets, but we're still going to be putting them pretty far north, where they will still experience harsh winters, but see some solace in the changing of seasons.
Okay. Let's see. From what I've seen, the Deinonychus lived in a floodplain, or something like a swamp-like habitat, a swamp-like environment, which means that Deinonychus actually preferred more humid temperatures. No, more humid conditions. Sorry about that.
I'll be placing them in North America, and gee, big surprise, Madly is putting an animal in North America again.
You dirty bastard, you've done it again!
I know, but this time I have a better reason for it. I thought about placing them broadly in the Northern Hemisphere, but something happened between North America and Siberia around 20,000 years ago.
Deinonychus lived at around 115 to 108 million years ago. Now, that's a heads up for you. Anyways, continue.
Environment which it lived in was very similar to modern-day Louisiana. These areas were marked with floodplains and river valleys and very dense forest, which is very different from the Northern Hemisphere in the Pleistocene, which was largely made up of open mammoth steppe and boreal forests.
That means Deinonychus would not be able to adapt in its they adapt to its environment. Well, most of them do not. And even if they do, their numbers would be small and would be outcompeted, despite their faster reproductive methods.
I'll put it bluntly, if we put Deinonychus into the glacial maximums of the Ice Age, they're not going to last even a year. Such a drastic change in temperature and environment would be too much to handle. So, to give them a fighting chance, we're going to be placing them at the beginning of an interglacial period so they can have the time to adapt to the colder weather and more open environment before the long winter comes.
Okay.
Stocks are always right eventually. Winter is coming.
However,
General Winter. Is it General Winter from the Soviet thing?
even if we do this, it'll still be much colder than the Cretaceous.
Which means the Deinonychus would probably just die of hypothermia before he could even do anything. At most, they'll probably live for like 10 years or so. No, 5 years before they just go to extinction. That's just my speculation, though. I could be super, super wrong.
Their only saving grace is their size and their feathers,
Which would not help them. Compared to other stuff in their environment, like the Smilodon and the woolly mammoth. How would they be able to hunt down? How would they be able to, like, outcompete the Smilodons with the hunting methods? Smilodon hunting methods, their fangs, are literally adapted for their environment. Deinonychus's jaws are not.
large warm-blooded animals tend to do better in colder regions as their mass helps them retain body heat in frigid temperatures. And given our larger estimates of up to 90 kilograms or 200 pounds, Deinonychus are quite heavy for their dimensions. Couple this with feathers that covered most of their body, they may be better equipped than we think. But still, the drastic environment change doesn't give me much confidence, taking their score down quite a bit. Environment suitability score, 2.5 out of 10.
They would literally die of hypothermia anyway. So, I would just give them a 2 at this point. Even a 1.5. No, 1.5 is a bit harsh. Let's continue on the thing, shall we?
This is where Deinonychus can make up for some lost points in the last category. Dromaeosaurs are some of the most well-armed predators in the fossil record, with just about every part of their body being capable of inflicting damage.
Not their sickle claws, because, you know, raptors, their sickle claws are just portrayed as super sharp and able to disembowel them, which is not true. They're not sharp enough. It's more likely they use them for raptor prey restraint, which is also using sickle claws as a weapon technically, despite not disemboweling their prey with them. And younger ones, smaller ones, or smaller ones might be able to climb trees with these, these sickle claws, but not disembowel their prey.
Deinonychus is estimated to have a bite force that is either on par or greater than that of a spotted hyena, which is supported by the presence of pretty well-defined teeth marks from Deinonychus left on the bones of their prey animals. There are, of course, their iconic, large, sickle-shaped claws on both feet, seen in all dromaeosaurs. It is not believed that most dromaeosaurs use their sickle claw primarily for slashing prey items. Simulations of this behavior using scans of their sickle claws did not yield results that would suggest it was used for this purpose. Rather, they are believed to have been used, in tandem with their claws and forelimbs, for pinning prey items much like modern birds of prey.
This is called raptor prey restraint, and it's definitely... It's a much more plausible method. So I can give this guy credit. I mean, this video is definitely not the best video we've seen from this guy. This guy's other videos are good, though. But when it comes to paleontology like this, try not to tackle on it as much. This guy's going to commit more mistakes with these paleontology videos.
They may also have been used for climbing, or holding on to the side of very large prey items like Tenontosaurus, something that they could definitely replicate in their new environment.
They could definitely replicate that in their environment. What? Okay, stuff like the bisons are much more armed than Tenontosaurus. So, the bison would probably give the Deinonychus a much harder time. Literally. And even Arctodus as well. They literally have completely different anatomies from the Tadontosaurus. How would the Deinonychus be able to survive like that? How would the Deinonychus be able to successfully hunt these guys as successfully as they hunted Tadontosaurus?
Further suggesting this is their feathers, which are believed to have been very long on their forelimbs. These feathers would help stabilize them in intense combat situations. Their long, flexible tails, also covered in long feathers, would act as a rudder during pursuits. Speaking of pursuit, these raptors may not have been as fast as the movies would lead
Oh no, not the P3 Raptors.
you to believe. The length and build of their leg bones suggests that Deinonychus was not so fast, believed to be slower than modern-day ostriches. More reasonable estimates for the speed of Deinonychus place them around 40 kilometers per hour or 25 miles per hour.
Now, here's the thing about Deinonychus. Again, I'm probably just repeating myself a billion times already, but like, how would Deinonychus be able to adapt to a completely unfamiliar environment with a place that already has predators? Deinonychus is going to have to compete with them, something that it's never done before.
Though they wouldn't be as fast as, say, wolves or lions, they could certainly run for longer than them. This is because dinosaurs utilize unidirectional breathing. When birds, dinosaurs, and crocodilians breathe in, the air is pulled into air sacs and then into their lungs when they breathe out, which means that their lungs are constantly receiving fresh oxygen-rich air, unlike mammals who breathe directly in and out of their lungs. This gives theropod dinosaurs like Deinonychus incredible stamina, likely allowing them to maintain their top speed for much longer than many mammals can. Contrary to what films like Jurassic Park had led people to believe, pack-hunting dromaeosaurs is not a widely agreed-upon theory amongst paleontologists.
It's more so that they, they did mobbing strategy. Actually, no, we can't even call that a strategy because there is no strategy involved in these mobbing techniques. Not even techniques, they're just mobbing. Literally. Where, where these animals just don't coordinate attacks, just attack the thing, attack the same prey at the same time. Yeah, that's... Sorry for all those stutters and all that. I had to, think of whatever I had to say.
But the intelligent groups of raptors seen in media are inspired by multiple findings of Deinonychus skeletons around skeletons of Tenontosaurus, an iguanodontian ornithopod that would be far too large for a single Deinonychus to take down.
Ironically enough, the larger a raptor is, the more likely that it's going to hunt in packs. For example, Utah raptor. So, even Deinonychus, it's not the most likely raptor to be hunting in packs. That belongs to Utah raptor.
Other evidence that supports this behavior is the discovery of footprints from these raptors that indicate a group moving together. This suggests
gang hunting. Literally, loose gangs, mobs, just mobbing, loose gangs. Still not packs.
That Deinonychus may have indeed traveled with one another, rather than converging only to gang up on prey like Komodo dragons. Though we don't know for sure, and it may be discovered otherwise in the future, for this video we will be going with the assumption that Deinonychus lived and hunted in packs, but not go so far as to say they were as sophisticated as wolves or lions. I'm sure I'll see plenty of you yapping about that in the comments, so I made sure to provide all my sources in the description below. There's a common misconception that because these dromaeosaurs had hollow bones, they would have been incredibly light and brittle. This is simply not true. Most dinosaurs, including large sauropods and even T-Rex, had hollow bones. This works with their robust circulatory and respiratory systems to deliver oxygen throughout their bodies. Flying birds today have delicate hollow bones because they need to be light in order to achieve flight. Deinonychus, as far as we know, did not fly. Deinonychus and other dromaeosaurs had binocular vision, much like birds of prey and their distant cousin the Tyrannosaurus rex. This, of course, suggests that they had incredible vision that allowed them to be skilled hunters. Though they may suffer from a deficit in speed, and the environment will be very unfamiliar and cold for them, they make up for a good amount of it with their incredible arsenal, group behavior, and robust build.
Even if they do hunt in packs, how would they be able to compete with other predators in their environment, like the Smilodon, for example?
score up for this category quite a bit. Strengths and weaknesses score 8 out of 10.
Did the guy also say that feathers and bulk would help
Pleistocene.
it? Feathers and bulk would help it. It won't against dudes like Smilodon. Literally. Gosh.
North America has a pretty diverse list of animals that are potential prey items for Deinonychus. The easiest and most likely common prey for Deinonychus would be smaller animals. Rodents, birds, peccaries, and small ungulates. Really anything their size or smaller are prime targets. It's believed Deinonychus preyed on Zephyrosaurus, a small dog-sized thescelosaurid, more frequently than Tenontosaurus. Small mammals such as rabbits and peccaries fall within a manageable speed and agility range for Deinonychus.
The biggest one over here is a little bit of a problem for Deinonychus. The other three are fine targets for Deinonychus, though. As you can see, the ones on the right.
However, deer and especially caribou would be much faster, but the raptor's advanced respiratory system would likely allow them to run these animals down over great distances.
Disregarding the fact that they're in a completely different environment, which could probably just compromise these enhanced stamina. Guys, Deinonychus is in a completely different environment. If it can use its stamina well here as well, then good for the Deinonychus. But this is a completely different environment. The air sacs, the stamina would have been compromised. Likely be compromised.
Which brings us to more mid-sized herbivores, animals that are going to be closer in size to Tenontosaurus.
It's not going to survive against, it's not going to actually do anything against the bison. The bison has a completely different anatomy from a Tenontosaurus, first off. The bison is much more armored, and not armored, is much more armed, and can deal with Deinonychus much better. Even then, Tenontosaurus can kick and all that. Tenontosaurus can kick the Deinonychus. So, the bison can also just kick the Deinonychus. Gosh. Both the Deinonysaurus and the bison can just kick the Deinonychus to death. So, and the bison also has the extra perks of having horns that could actually be used.
Moose, bison, elk, camelops, horses.
Actually, I forgot. The bison's horns over here facing upwards, they're probably just for display. Sometimes they could be used to gore, but otherwise, probably not, actually. Sorry about everything. Gosh. I also commit mistakes, guys. It just shows.
And glyptodons.
Glyptodons. Oh. These guys are super armored. The Deinonychus might as well go for the head.
Moose and elk, as well as wild horses, will be the easiest among these, but not a cakewalk. Moose
They can just kick the Deinonychus, just like the bison does.
and elk, male or female, can be incredibly aggressive even without warning. Kicks from these animals could seriously injure a Deinonychus, just as it would a feline or other prey. Aggressive even without warning. Kicks from these
Sniffing butts and its consequence have been a disaster for Pleistocene North America. Oh, is it just horse kicking?
animals could seriously injure a Deinonychus, just as it would a feline or other predator of the same size. Even these larger ungulates are much faster than Deinonychus and will have to be hunted with ambush and coordinated tactics or ran down over great distances, something that may be harder with horses, which are known to run at full speed for up to 3 miles. The same goes for bison and camelops.
Bison is much harder to deal with than these moose and elk. So, what is the point?
Who were even larger and more robust than their modern relatives. If the raptors can avoid direct attacks from these animals, they may be able to take them down much quicker than wolves or hyenas. Deinonychus could
Take the creature down much quicker than... Oh my gosh, what? Guys, Deinonychus, these guys are not equipped to deal with the prey in the Pleistocene. They are literally equipped to deal with prey in their environment.
latch to the side or
Not Jurassic World.
back of these animals
Evolution.
using their sickle claws and strong hands, and inflict serious wounds with both scratches and bone-crushing bites. Then there's the Glyptodon, the mammal kingdom's attempt at the ankylosaurid build. Even the most fearsome predators of the Ice Age likely had a lot of trouble trying to take down one of these guys.
That means Deinonychus, even if it tries to aim for the head, the armadillos would not let that happen. And the armadillo's super armor, armadillo's armor would just prevent the Deinonychus doing any damage, really.
Deinonychus is going to take them down, it will have to be by targeting between their armored plates or by exhausting them enough to make doing so easier. Glyptodon had a pretty robust tail lined with thick bony spikes, and its cousin the Doedicurus, another glyptodont, even had a stegosaurus-like spiked tail that would surely be a familiar threat to the raptors. And finally, we have the megafauna that the Ice Age is known for: mammoths, mastodons, and the giant ground sloth.
These Deinonychus would stand absolutely no chance against these guys. Giant ground sloths just slap them. Mastodons and mammoths would just gore and stomp them to oblivion. Gosh. To think that these guys could be killed by Deinonychus is just absolutely insane.
Deinonychus doesn't have a great matchup against any of these large animals, but neither do many of the carnivores at the time. Even the strong
I mean, the only ones that could deal with them are humans, because they're smart enough. Deinonychus are not smart enough.
matchup against
And Neanderthals can also deal with those mammoths and all of that.
any of these
They have tool use.
large animals,
Deinonychus does not have tool use.
but neither do many of the carnivores at the time. Even the strongest of predators couldn't do anything to healthy adults of these animals. Rather, they would take advantage of poorly guarded young and sick individuals. Let's talk about the ground sloth first, specifically Eremotherium, the largest giant ground sloth present in North America, slightly larger than the closely related Megatherium in size.
Look at the Eremotherium here. Less robust than the Megatherium.
Eremotherium, the largest giant ground sloth present in North America.
As you can see here, the Eremotherium is less robust than the Megatherium. Therefore, we can probably say that the Megatherium is still larger.
Slightly larger than the closely related Megatherium in size, reaching an overall length of 6 meters or 20 feet and a height of 2 meters, 6.
一瞓落床，皮膚就痕，仲要晚晚都痕。用萬壽雷登 AD 軟膏。
.6 feet while on all fours, and possibly up to 4 meters or 13 feet when it reared up on its hind legs, weighing anywhere between 4,000 to 6,500 kilograms, 8,700 to 14,000 pounds. They of course had the ability to rear up on their hind legs and swipe at their opponents. This would have made them incredibly intimidating, making Deinonychus unlikely to attack them. The
Okay. Ironically enough, it would be an easier target because the Eremotherium is smaller.
Eremotherium's machete-sized claws would make quick work of a raptor.
Literally, yes. Megatherium and Eremotherium aside, no matter what it is, no matter what the giant ground sloth is, the Megatherium or Eremotherium, it would just slap the Deinonychus to shreds, to oblivion, complete death.
A large group of Deinonychus may be able to take on a very sick adult, but it is probably most often young individuals that Deinonychus will be preying on. Now, of course, let's move on to mammoths and mastodons. Much like with the giant ground sloth, healthy adults are out of the question. Females will be traveling in herds, and males will be too large to even consider. It is again rather sick and young individuals that will be targeted. Their tusks
Sick and young individuals. And that's also... Okay. That's also how predators hunt, by the way. In herds, they target the weakest one. So, survival is basically just how nature works. Survival of the fittest.
in herds, and males will be too large to even consider. It is again rather sick and young individuals that will be targeted. Their tusks are very curved and swoop down quite low, better suited to be swung around like clubs rather than stabbing like spears. Depending on which species, mammoth tusks can be anywhere between 3 and 4.5 meters long. A swing...
Okay, even with a swing, these raptors could just die. Literally.
Species, mammoth tusks can be anywhere between 3 and 4.5 meters long. A swing from these tusks from even a sick mammoth could shatter the bones of any predator, dinosaur or mammal. Feline predators of the time, like the American lion and Homotherium, among others, also didn't have great matchup against adult mammoths or mastodons, but I believe that Deinonychus may be just a little bit better at clinging on to the side of large prey items.
Why slash? Literally, slashing enemy. His slashing drawing is just not correct. Okay. Even then, the mammoth is way too big. The mammoth could handle them.
Sickle claw, strong hands, and
Sickle claw, oh my god. Stop contradicting yourself. You said that they could not be used for disemboweling, or slashing, or anything like that. Yet this, and you're now saying that they can just use their sickle claws.
and stabilizing feathers of Deinonychus might make them better at it than their feline contemporaries.
But mammoths will just tank bite after bite after bite, because mammoths are too big.
But they may not be able to do as much damage to them due to their lighter build. Again,
And their jaws.
it would only be sick or young individuals that they would realistically have any chance against. Healthy adults would be too much for them to handle. In fact, if you'd like to know a little bit more about mammoths, you can check out the video on the woolly mammoth on my channel. Link is in the description below, or you can head over to the Primeval Posts playlist. Deinonychus gets a pretty good score in this category because their weaponry, size, and hunting strategies make them a pretty powerful force in this new ecosystem. They make up for their slower speed with their unidirectional respiratory system, which presumably would allow them to run at top speed for much longer than mammals. But they'd have a rough time with larger prey items like mammoths and ground sloths.
And they're also going to have to compete with Smilodon. Actually, with their felines, and any feline in general, they have to compete with any feline in general, and even smaller prey, they have to compete with smaller felines. And these smaller felines would be more adapted to attacking the smaller prey than the Deinonychus.
Prey item score 8 out of 10.
I'll just give it a 5.
Marvel Studios 死侍與狼人 Disney Plus
Oh,
現已
come
獨家
on.
串流上線。
Cantonese. Okay. Look, I'm not xenophobic here. I'm literally from Hong Kong. And there we go. Guys, don't hate on Cantonese. I'm literally from Hong Kong. I literally speak Cantonese a lot. But, you know, I'm not very good at it, so
Deinonychus will be faced with a lot of different competition throughout the Pleistocene
felines. Literally. Just felines.
that all present different challenges. These predators include the short-faced bear, Homotherium, Smilodon fatalis, the American lion, as well as wolves, direwolves, and cave hyenas. Let's start with the short-faced bear. Arctodus simus was the second largest mammalian land predator in the American lion, as well as wolves, direwolves, and cave hyenas. Let's start with the short-faced bear. Arctodus simus was the second largest mammalian land predator in history, only beaten by its South American cousin Arctotherium. Arctodus is believed to have weighed 1,019 kilograms.
correct.
Is believed to Arctodus
That is correct. Everybody just talks about Arctodus, but no one just talks about the Arctotherium.
predator in history, only beaten by its South American cousin Arctotherium. Arctodus is believed to have weighed 1,019 kilograms or 2,246 pounds, and could stand tall as 11 feet or almost 3.5 meters on their hind legs. This bear was a force to be reckoned with on the mammoth steppe. Deinonychus would make use of any carcasses the bears leave behind and vice versa. The giant bear could likely use its imposing size and power to scare off packs of Deinonychus from their own kills. In terms of territorial disputes, it would be mixed. Both of these animals would have a mix of open plain and forest within their borders.
Because Deinonychus is more suited to an environment where forests are prevalent, the Arctodus would probably have the advantage here. And where would the Deinonychus go? They need to find a forest.
And would defend it pretty fiercely. Don't get me wrong, I think a short-faced bear could probably take on a whole pack of Deinonychus.
Yes. Because a short-faced bear is just way too armed for the Deinonychus to deal with.
but at what cost? This is something that the bear already dealt with when it comes to big cats or dire wolves. The short-faced bear just doesn't have the numbers like many of the other predators in the Pleistocene. Just like wolves and grizzly bears, I think there would be a lot more avoidance than direct conflict. Speaking of wolves, let's now talk about wolves and dire wolves. While we now know that dire wolves, or Anoscion dirus, aren't really wolves in terms of phylogeny, they were very similar, with dire wolves being larger by a small margin. For the sake of simplicity, I'll just be referring to both of them as wolves and ranking them together.
Oh, I also forgot about the canines. Sorry, guys. And canines would... I'll also give Deinonychus a hard time, because theoretically, the canines would probably just eat the Deinonychus eggs and eat their young. Therefore, no more Deinonychus. There is a reason why this environment was predominantly composed of mammals.
I believe wolves will be the most common and intense competition for our raptors. They'll hunt the same prey items and fight over carcasses and territory.
They'll probably just eat their eggs too, to eliminate the Deinonychus competition. Meanwhile, the Deinonychus can't eat the wolves' babies inside the wolves' womb, because they're literally inside the wolves' wombs. They're inside the wolves' tummies, and they're not going to be able to eat them like the wolves can eat Deinonychus's eggs.
Evidence of Deinonychus existing in groups indicates to us that they probably didn't live in very large groups, maybe 3 to 5 individuals give or take. Wolves, however, regularly form packs of 8 to 12 individuals, but packs of 20 to 30 have occurred. The wolves
are just...
may not be as robust as the dromaeosaurs, but they certainly have the advantage of numbers. Groups of Deinonychus may try to take advantage of smaller wolf packs, following them as they hunt animals they're better equipped to chase down, like elk and caribou, swooping in and using their size and numbers to bully the pack from the corpse. And the same would go for larger packs of wolves against smaller packs of Deinonychus. It's a similar situation with the cave hyena, very similar to today's spotted hyena in both size and behavior. In fact, I believe they're the same species. The cave hyena also roamed the mammoth steppe as both an active hunter and scavenger. So I won't speak too much on that, but it's very similar to the wolf matchup. And then there are, of course, the big cats. The American lion, Homotherium, and the ever so famous Smilodon. Most of these big cats had a very similar lifestyle, living in prides, much like African lions do today.
Either packs or prides.
They likely all had their own lifestyle and preferred prey, but their territory definitely had a lot of overlap. Deinonychus will have to find a way to wedge itself into this situation.
And these guys will probably just eat the eggs too. Probably not nearly as much as like dogs, wolves and all that.
Panthera atrox, or
not dogs, canines. Gosh, wolves, dire wolves.
American lion was the largest big cat that ever roamed the Americas. They're believed to be about 25% larger than their cousin the African lion, Panthera leo. They measured approximately 1.6 to 2.5 meters, or 5.3 to 8.2 feet, with adult males weight estimates ranging from 230 to 360 kilograms, or 500 to 800 pounds, the largest of specimens reaching almost 1,000 pounds. Even with our most robust size for Deinonychus, they have no business taking on the American lions. One-on-one or in a group fight, they're far too large.
Literally. Gosh, they're several times bigger. A bunch of them are several times bigger. Some are just bigger.
Smilodon fatalis, though smaller than its southern cousin Smilodon populator, was still a very large predator. Estimates for their size give them a body length of 1.6 to 2.2 meters, 5.2 to 7.2 feet, and a weight of 160 to 280 kilograms, or 350 to 620 pounds. Researchers are still torn on whether or not Smilodon lived in groups, with some believing they lived much like lions, and others believing they were a more solitary ambush hunter, like a tiger. If the former is true, it's the same situation as with the American lion, but if the latter is true, Deinonychus could manage to bully a lone Smilodon away from its kill or territory.
It's more likely that Smilodon was a social animal and had a social structure among its species. I'm talking about species here because it's Smilodon fatalis we're talking about, not Smilodon populator.
One-on-one fight between these two, Smilodon definitely wins. Finally, there's Homotherium. These guys had a more slender build with longer limbs that suggested they were better built for pursuit on open plains than other cats. They lived farther north than the other big cats, reaching up to Alaska and crossing over to Eurasia. Estimates for their size give them a body length of 1.1 to 1.4 meters, 3.6 to 4.6 feet, and a weight of 150 to 250 kilograms, 330 to 550 pounds. Despite being the lightest of the three big cats we've mentioned, the same applies here. Homotherium prides would be no less a threat than the other cats. Deinonychus might fare a bit better in a one-on-one fight with these guys, but not by much. I think any of these felines take down a Deinonychus, and in a group situation, I think the Deinonychus simply flee. Because though they may have good weapons at their disposal, the pure mass and power behind the big cats is just too much for them to handle. So, though they have a good matchup against wolves, hyenas, and some of the smaller felines, the short-faced bear, the American lion, and the saber-toothed cats would remain as the apex predators and a threat to the raptors.
And that means these raptors are going to... Because these raptors never face competition in their environment, once they're plucked into this, where they have to face competition, they're definitely not going to be adapt as much. They're not going to be able to adapt as much.
Now, before I give this category a score, I'm going to talk about the elephant, or the hairless ape in the room, humans.
Hairless ape in the room, humans. Okay, so one-on-one, Deinonychus would win, but humans can use tools.
Sapiens didn't cross the Bering Strait into North America until close to the very end of the Pleistocene, between 15 and 20,000 years ago. This is why I place them in North America specifically, rather than Eurasia or just the Northern Hemisphere broadly. Even early humans are overpowered, and I don't think Deinonychus will have any better of a matchup against them than they do with big cats.
Because humans lived in groups, obviously, they're social animals, and they can also use tools, which means that they can literally kill a Deinonychus from with a range by attacking it even at range.
Lucky for the raptors, they have a little over 2 million years to establish themselves in the environment, so we'll touch on humans in the final segment of this video. Competition score 4 out of 10.
3 at most.
Luckily for me, I recently got and upgraded to Grammarly Pro, and it's been an absolute lifesaver. Right now,
which brings us to our survival assessment score. 5.5 out of 10.
I'd probably just bring it down. Like, it's definitely lower than 5.5. Forgot what my average would be.
Deinonychus, though it may be well equipped to carve itself a decent niche in the trophic systems of the Pleistocene, just isn't suited for the climate.
Instead, just choose something that is of similar size to Deinonychus, like the Imperabator, for example.
Even in an interglacial period, they would be very chilly in North America.
Now, from what I've seen, though, Imperabator might have not actually been able to live. It'll probably fare a little bit better than Deinonychus, but given that Antarctica in the Cretaceous was much warmer than in today, Imperabator probably might not be able to survive either.
And will either have to move further south or eat a lot more food to compensate for the sharp drop in temperature.
Eat a lot more food. And where's the food when their food is being hunted by their competitors? They're probably just going to have to migrate south, but then they're going to have to face stuff like the, whatchamacallit, like the Smilodon populator, which is even more of a fierce competition. So they literally have nowhere to go. They're going to be extinct before they even go to South America.
And though Deinonychus isn't unfamiliar with large predators, they are not familiar with so many predators that live in groups like lions, hyenas, and wolves. If raptors did live in packs, they would have been the only predators that did so in their environment. Competition from mammals would be incredibly steep and intense. They'll need to adapt quickly and effectively in order to survive. Cold-blooded killers. Cryonychus notos, the cold southern claw, and Cryonychus arctus, the northern cold claw.
Oh, so 2 million years for Deinonychus to adapt. Like this. Natural selection.
In my
I think I've watched this guy before with all those speculative evolutionary stuff.
opinion, the most logical and reasonable progression of Deinonychus evolution in Pleistocene North America is to maintain their current body plan and maximize a handful of traits that would allow them to survive and compete more effectively. Cryonichus are descendants of these adapted Deinonychus that moved further south towards the warmer regions at the end of the interglacial period. Here, they became more successful in a mix of both open and forested environments. To compete with animals like lions, wolves, and saber-toothed cats, they became much larger. The Cryonichus are on average about 4 meters or just over 13 feet long and weigh about 140 kilograms or 300 pounds.
If there are Deinonychus survivors, if at all, okay. Would there be any Deinonychus survivors due to the intense competition that they have to face?
Making them a fair bit bigger than their ancestors. They also have become much faster, topping out at 28 miles per hour or almost 45 kilometers per hour. They can maintain these speeds for up to 5 miles straight, which allows them to run down endurance-based animals like horses.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Oh.
Also, to better compete with other predators, Cryonichus has a more sophisticated social structure, consisting of a leading mating pair and their offspring. Sometimes
Okay. Dominant pairs, fledglings. Subordinates, fledglings. Okay. Siblings, sometimes pairs of dominant.
joined by their siblings or parents. These groups are called castes. A caste of Cryonichus can be anywhere between 4 and 10 individuals, depending on what time of year it is, how many offspring they have, and what resources are available to them. Fledgling Cryonichus will stay with their caste until they reach maturity, where males will go off to find females and form their own caste, and females will stay with their own until a male comes to them. Males will court young females by displaying a spread of bright red feathers underneath their wings. Even if the young female approves, it is actually up to her parent to also approve of the young male and allow her to leave. Their preferred prey items are horses, though they do also hunt deer, camelops, tapir, and occasionally young or sick megatherium or mastodon. Cryonichus also has a northern subspecies, Cryonichus arctos, or a bit larger on average, have darker skin and snow-white feathers. They split off from the southern Cryonichus at the beginning of the next interglacial period, traveling back north and remaining there. They are
overlap. Cryonichus notos, Cryonichus arctos. Now, here's the thing. If they're connected, then they still have gene interchange. That means they could still technically be the same species. In order to form new species, they're going to have geological they can't overlap with each other anymore. And then they evolve in different ways due to accumulating mutations. So realistically, they could probably be same.
Are more or less the same in terms of lifestyle, but hunt animals like caribou, bison, and young or sick woolly mammoths. When humans crossed over the Bering Strait, they began to hunt many of the animals that Cryonichus relied on. As the ice sheets receded and many of these animals went extinct, Cryonichus became less and less common. By the time European settlers arrived in North America, these strange pack-hunting birds were only known to them by stories natives would tell.
Stories natives would tell. Cryonichus. This is humans. European settlers arriving. Colonialism.
Settlers arrived in North America, these strange pack-hunting birds were only known to them by stories natives would tell. Some tribes say to this day they live in remote mountains and forests, and many people living on the Alaskan frontier and northern Canadian territories claim to see large dinosaur-like creatures stalking the landscape in far-off prairies.
Okay. So as of now, there's just three tiles that are, gosh, stop having a stroke. Oh my god, what am I even trying to say? 3 tiles that are filled, that are circled.
Taekwondosaurus.
The
Phindactylus numa, or the striking toe of the plains.
No!
Fundactylus is a descendant of Deinonychus that has evolved a much larger sickle claw and much more robust and powerful legs, which they use in tandem to kick and slash open the throats and vitals of prey items. They have grown to be considerably larger than their ancestors, reaching about 3 meters or 10 feet tall, 16 feet or nearly 5 meters long, and weighing a substantial 820 pounds or 370 kilograms. They behave quite differently from their cousin the Cryonychus, being solitary for most of their lives, only coming together to fight for mating rights and then subsequently to raise their young, and will attack anything from lions to mammoths to other Fundactylus if they feel like they are a threat to their territory. I'm sure you can see the similarity between them and terror birds. Fundactylus is not only much larger than they were, but also have not foregone their claws for stubby little wings like them, and their kick is much more deadly and powerful than that of a terror bird. The sickle claw of a Fundactylus is 13 inches or 33 centimeters long, and is capable of slicing open the throat of even large animals like moose or steppe bison, who will use their wide wings and tail feathers to balance themselves while they strike forward with one leg.
Now, given that basically every dromaeosaurid could not use their claws for slashing, I doubt that these claws would also be used for slashing too, unless if they evolved them to slash.
Heads are proportionately a bit smaller due to them not really using it as their primary weapon, though their bite force is still on par with hyenas like their ancestors.
Wouldn't a successful predator use its head mainly for hunting? Like, in order to be a successful predator, you gotta use your powerful bite to just crunch to your prey's neck and then just kill them.
Once humans crossed over the Bering Strait and ventured down into the modern United States, it wasn't long before these towering raptors were hunted to extinction. The Fundactylus and their eggs were targeted by humans, as they, like many other animals, had almost no defenses against thrown projectiles. They went extinct long before European settlers would arrive, with many other Ice Age animals. Winter Wonderland, the Nevoraptor lemeni, whose name means the snow raptor, or the lemming hawk for short. Nevoraptors are quite small descendants of Deinonychus that inhabit the very far north of North America, reaching even into the North Pole. They grow no larger than most house cats, coming in at an average length of 32 inches long, or 80 centimeters from head to tail, and weighing 10 pounds or 4.5 kilograms. Unfortunately, this decision to become smaller leaves them vulnerable to many predators like wolves, bears, owls, and so on.
And then there's foxes and beavers. And they're even more vulnerable to foxes, so they might as well hunt the small mammals in their environment.
Nevoraptors' most common prey items are lemmings. In a similar fashion to foxes, Nevoraptors walk along the surface of the snow, feeling for vibrations to hone on the location of the lemming. They then pounce on them, killing them with a single bite. While lemmings are their preferred prey, they also hunt squirrels, weasels, birds, wild hares, and occasionally...
Oh, they're not beavers, they're weasels. Sorry about that.
Larger animals
No, they're literally beavers, guys.
Like foxes and beavers. They can sometimes accomplish squirrels.
Yeah, they're beavers. Oh my gosh. Stop having a brain fart.
Weasels, birds, wild hares, and occasionally larger animals like foxes and beavers. They can sometimes accomplish hunting these bigger animals because they live in families. Nevoraptors choose one mate for life and will raise up to 5 young into adulthood per year. Much like lemmings, they will build and tunnel through deep snow. For this, they have very short, stubby legs with wide feet that act like snowshoes. They use their claws like shovels to push snow out of the way, and even smack the top of their tunnels with their heads to pack the snow and improve structural stability.
Alright, it's still 3 tiles, guys. No more than 3, apparently. You know, this is just speculative stuff, so I can't really say that much going forward with it. Let's see. So the first one over here is Cryonychus. The second over here is Taekwondosaurus. Phenodactylus Numi. And the third one is the Nevoraptor. No, not another ad. Stop giving me this ad. Oh my god. 2 unskippable ads. Are you kidding me? This is dumb.
Means the snow raptor. For this, they have very feet and even smack the top of their tunnels with their heads to pack the snow and improve structural stability. These tunnels typically have 3 rooms. One small room that acts as a storage for meat or any cool rocks or branches the Nevoraptor decides to keep. Another room for the Nevoraptor's nests. This room is later used as a nursery for the hatchlings while they grow, and then there's the main den, where the mating pair of Nevoraptors will cuddle and sleep together in.
When they also sleep on top of their eggs. Okay. Would their eggs literally be humped down?
When humans crossed the Bering Strait, they took note of the Nevoraptors' remarkable hunting skills, and began to befriend them by offering bits of cooked meat, which the raptors would store in their dens.
So unlike the other raptors, this one is suitable enough for humans to breed and to tame them. So, are we going to have domesticated raptors? Domesticated Deinonychus?
Slowly, Nevoraptors build their dens closer and closer to human settlements until eventually they pretty much become domesticated.
Oh, they eventually become domesticated and form Nevoraptor domesticanus, I guess. Because they're domesticated. Like cats and dogs are. And also
hunting small game for humans in return for treats and shelter. Thousands of years later, when European settlers arrived, they too found the Nevoraptors useful. And it wasn't long before a bustling pet trade of Nevoraptors emerged.
Nevoraptors. So, unlike the other two that are hunted to extinction by the humans, this Nevoraptor was kept because it's small, it's not threatening or anything, and there we go. Humans found them useful, and not threatening.
Before a bustling pet trade of Nevoraptors.
Not as threatening, obviously.
Raptors emerged. To this day, they still inhabit areas like northern Alaska, Canada, Greenland, and are even becoming a problem in Siberia. Thank you.
So, Nevoraptor is the only one to survive. Okay.
For another episode, leave them in the Dick Narwhal, Green.
Hey, the alliterations are cool. The alliterations are cool, that's for sure. I've watched this guy's other videos. This is definitely not the best one. Obviously, there's a bunch of stuff. Deinonychus would just die of hypothermia. Even if they could hypothetically survive, they would definitely have to compete a lot. That's pretty much all there is.
All game for humans in return for treats and shelter. Thousands of years later, when European settlers arrived, they too found the Nevoraptors useful. And it wasn't long before a bustling pet trade of Nevoraptors emerged.
So, Nevoraptor ownership, turning them into dogs of some sort. Obviously, dogs, cats, domesticated.
To this day, they still inhabit areas like northern Alaska, Canada, Greenland, and are even becoming a problem in Siberia. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. Of course, if you have any ideas for another episode, leave them in the comments.
I don't know what sort of Nevoraptor breeds are there going to be. Are there going to be stuff like pugs? Gosh, pugs are a result of excessive artificial selection. And then pugs just have a bunch of health problems that just cripple them. They have a shorter life expectancy than most other dog breeds.
And don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already.
Let's see, how many minutes are there in this review? Because this is probably finished. 58 minutes and 23 seconds, man. 58 minutes and 23 seconds, and obviously I have to do other stuff along the way, so it's definitely over an hour. Yeah, it's definitely over an hour since I first watched this 30-minute video. What a wild journey, guys. 30 minutes. Our mission is complete, guys. The verdict of this video is that this video definitely is not... This video is definitely subpar compared to other Medley Mesozoic videos. You know, this guy's other videos are good, but this guy, when it comes to paleontology, when it comes to paleontology like this, you know, a bunch of the paleontology videos are good, but pluck them inside. But you know, like this type of video, could raptors survive the Ice Age? Pluck in the Deinonychus into the Ice Age, and it's definitely not as good. It's still okay, obviously. But anyways, let's check a look at the results. And that pretty much wraps up our review. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoy it. I'll see you all in the next one.